Greetings, Iain from RTO here. Welcome to a Marathon Wednesday, the day we take on those big catalogues. And today is a viewer's request, and we'll be looking at the German progressive rock band Eloy. Great band. They have had a brilliant beginning career, then they had that little blip in the 80s, and they've come back strong with some really good albums. So Eloy formed in 1969 by guitarist Frank Bornemann. Of course, like with most of these bands, I've had lots of changes, major splits, but they all come back together, and they all come back together in 1988, the original, and they've made 19 albums. I've not included the soundtrack they did to Codename Wild Geese. Big in Germany, of course, but weren't very popular in the United States, but I know they're big here. A lot of fat people like this band. I got them into them by mistake, and I mean that in a nice way. I just heard this music once. Oh, what's this? And found out it was Eloy, and that would have been in about 82. I brought a couple of their 80s albums and didn't think much of them, but I went and sort of went backwards, and I really love their early stuff. So we've got 19 albums to look at today, so we better get cracking. So coming in at number 19, we have the 11th album that was released in 1983, and it's called Performance. Now, my German's not the best, so I do apologise to all our German fans that watch. If I get it wrong, I do apologise. So the band in 1983 were Frank Bornemann on guitars and vocals, Hans and Connor on guitar and keyboards, Hans Folbeth on keyboards and piano, Klaus Peter Matzoy on bass, and Fritz Randau on the drums. So the first track on this one is called In Disguise. Well, it's not even prog, it's just wishy-washy pop nonsense. Doesn't have nothing to do with prog, that track. Pretty bad. Shadow and Life. There's nothing good about this one either. The keyboards are that horrible 80s keyboard sound that I just detest. Smooth drums, sounds like they've put it in cling film. Not very good. Marauder. Probably one of the worst things I've heard by Eloy. Doesn't even belong on the album. It's that bad. Surrender. Oh dear, we are struggling today. On the first album, I don't like that either. It's horrible. Now the next one, Heartbeat, I do like. It's actually one of the better tracks on here. But it's still not brilliant, but it's one of the most listenable ones. Fools is another terrible synthy 80s rubbish, and the last track is A Broken Frame, which isn't probably the second best track on the album. In my opinion, this is too synthy, doesn't sound prog. It's an album that I've very rarely listened to. I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 1 out of 10. It's just not very good at all. Okay then, coming in number 18, we go to 1988 now, and the 13th album, Ra, and it was the first album for 4 years, so we've had a change up. There's only 2 actual members of Eloy at the moment. Frank Bornemann, of course, on guitars and vocals, Michael Gerlach on keyboards, bass, synthesizer and drums, and guest musicians on here are Achim Geisler on keyboards, Stefan Holz on bass, Daryl Van Rattle on fretless bass, Paul Harriman on the bass, Annette Stromberg lead vocals on 3 tracks, Diana Biden on whispers, Tony Newton on guitars, Udo Daman on drums, and Sue Wist on vocal intro. Okay, first track on here is called The Voyager of the Future Race. Now, this is sound very much in the classic Eloy. The drums are terrible and it's got the 80s production on it. But I think this track, if they was to do it now, it'd be a lot better. It's just that 80s produced. It is the best track on the album. Then we get Sensations. Again, it's that drumming. Oh, it's not even it's not progressive rock. It's just poppy synth stuff. Not very good. Dreams. Now this sounds more like Barclay James Harvest at the time. It's very weak prog. Nothing special. Then we get The Invasion of a Megaforce. It's all right, very 80s, but it's still got that. It has got a little bit of something that sounds. Oh, that's Eloy. Then we get Rainbow. I don't mind this. It's got some nice harmonies on it. Pretty good. And the last track on this one is Hero. This is quite good. The only thing that ruins it is the 80s keyboards, but it has got some nice guitar riffs on it. Okay, it's one of the better albums of the 80s for me, like, but it's the horrible keyboard and the smooth drums, but I do like the first track, and there's 1 or 2 highlights on here that probably would be better if they were redone now. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 4 out of 10. Okay, then coming at number 17, we go to the 12th album from 1984, Metromania. Rodney Matthews cover. I like that cover. And it's after the last of the album Ra, they took a hiatus. Good job and all, really. So on here we have got Frank Borman, of course, Klaus-Peter Matsoy on bass, Hans Fulbeth on keyboards, Hans Anok on guitars, Fritz Rando on drums. Lots of backing singers on this, too many to mention. Okay then, first track on here is called Escape to the Heights. This is quite a catchy tune. It's got some nice riffs on it. Not too bad, not too bad. Seeds of Creation. I don't like this. I hate the drums. I hate the synths. I just don't like the track. All Life is One. It's electronic, vibrant thing. Not very good. The Stranger starts well with the guitars, but that horribly synthy crap comes in. Not very good at all. Follow the Light. Probably the best thing on the album. It's a bit more proggy and the sound doesn't sound too bad. Night Riders, another really good track. It's got a great bass line on it. Don't mind that. Metromania. This is shockingly SH1T. Oh. Yeah, not the best way to end the album. Okay. It's not too bad. That's one of the, again, for an 80s album, it has got a few highlights, but it has got some, oh dear me, stuff. But it's, I think the cover's better than the album, so I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 5 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 16, we get on the 9th album from 1981, and it's Planets, and it was the last album that featured drummer Jim McGillivray. So on here we have got Frank Borman, Hans Ancona, Hans Fulbeth, Klaus-Peter Matsoy, and Jim McGillivray. First song, it's just called Introduction. It's pretty good. I like it. It's a bit of building up towards the album. On the Verge of Darkening Lights, a little bit more guitar in this one, but it's still over heavy synth. Point of No Return, don't mind this track. It's probably one of the better tracks on this album, actually. It's got some half-decent riffs in it. Then we got Mysterious Monolith. This one isn't... It's okay, it's the keyboard. Take away the keyboards and it's a good track. Then we get Queen of the Night. Very 8-inch sounding, but it's a little bit more proggy and it's quite pleasant to listen to. Then we get my favourite track. It's an instrumental called At the Gates of Dawn. It's a really nice piece of music. It's even the synth sounds good on this. It's pretty good. Then we get Sphinx. It's quite good. A good track to end the album. It's got 8 keyboards on it, but it's not... hasn't got much of a 80s tinge. Really good track. And then we get Carried by Cosmic Winds. I don't mind this one. It's quite pleasant. Okay, I hadn't played this album for a long time, so when I listened to it I thought, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was. Still got very tinges of 80s, but it's more prog than pop, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Excuse me. Okay then, coming in at number 15, we're going to 1982 now, and the Time to Turn album, and we've got Frank Borman, Hans Ancora, Hans Falbeth, Klaus-Peter Matzoy and Fritz Randall, and Amy, Sabine and Anne on some additional vocals. First track on here is called Through a Somber Galaxy. I love the bass line on this from Klaus. Very good. Not a bad track actually. Don't mind that one. Behind the Walls of Imagination's next. Again, it's the keyboards is more 70s, which is pretty cool. Again, the guitar is not too bad. I don't mind that track. Time to Turn. Not too bad again. I like the riffs, and you got the youngsters singing on it as well. It's alright. Magic Mirrors. It's okay. It's listenable. End of an Odyssey. Bit of an epic here. It's got remembrance of a classic Eloy on this, and it's verging on a pretty good track. It's got lots of little nice guitar bits from Frank. I like that track. My favourite on the album. Then we get The Flash. This isn't too bad. The keyboard runs on here are actually good. It's a solid track. Say It's Really True. Now, this sounds more like Moody Blues than Eloy, but it's quite a nice track. It's a nice track to end the album with. Again, I don't mind this album. I haven't listened to this for a little while. It's got some really good tracks, so them last 3 are absolute stunners. I really like them. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay then, coming in at number 14, 1992 now. And the album Destination. This is the second album to recorded with a new lineup of Frank Borman and Michael Gerhardt. It also marked the return of Klaus-Peter Matzoy, who hadn't played with the band since Metromania. So it's Frank Borman on guitar and Michael Gerhardt on keyboards, Klaus-Peter Matzoy, Nico Beretta on drums, Detlev Goy on bass on a couple of the tracks, Helga Enkel on a few. We've got Kai Stefan doing a guitar solo on track 5, Lenny McDowell on the flute. First track on here is called Call of the Wild. I love this. That bluesy bass line, keyboards are really good. The flute from Lenny McDowell really adds to it. Good track. Racing Shadows. This one isn't too bad. It's got some nice little hooks in it. Pretty cool. Destination. Oh, the drums are a little bit Still 80s, although this album was released in 92. Sort of needs a bit of deeper drums on that one. Prisoner in Your Mind. Now this one's got some nice little riffs in this. It's called a Little Rocker. Quite like that one. Silent Revolution. Now the drumming on this is really good. It's near enough progressive metal on this. Lots of vocal arrangements. The solo is pretty good, and I think this is the one that we have the guest of Cries Stefan. Pretty good track. One of my favourite tracks on the album. Fire and Ice. A little bit mediocre. Not the best track on the album. Eclipse of the Mankind. One of the best tracks on the album. An absolute great guitar solo from Frank. And a great boomy bassy line as well. Then we get Jeanne d'Arc. Pleasant enough. A mixed bag here really, and there's some really good tracks on here and there's some mediocre, but it's a pleasant enough album to listen to, so I shall give this one an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 13, we've got the 17th album now, released in 2009, Visionary. On here is Frank Borman, Klaus-Peter Mansoy, Michael Gerlach. Drummer now is Bobo Shokov. Hans Thorbeth is back doing some additional keyboards. Loads of guests on here. Doing vocals and Renaissance flute and everything. First track on here is called The Refuge. Love the guitars at the beginning of this. It's quite a good track. Good riffs, solid. The Secret, good track, lovely guitar again. The voice effects are good, keyboards are good, really like that. Again, Age of Insanity. My favourite track, the guitar work on this is good. Some of the drumming from this Bodo trap is very good. Good vocal from Frank. He's still singing really well, even in his autumn years. Really good track. Then we get The Challenge, which is Time to Turn Part 2 from one of the other albums. Stunning keyboards on this from Michael. Wow. And a great solo on it as well. Summer Night Symphony. It's okay. Not one of the best tracks on here. Mystery, which is The Secret Part 2. It's a little bit more memorable than the first Part 1. It's a good track. And then Thoughts, this is the last track. I love all the guitar work on this. It's got medieval in places. A good album on the whole, but there are some repetitive things on this. It seems they've used the same riff all the way through on some of the tracks, but it doesn't spoil the album really. And I'll give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, then coming in at number 12 is the most current album, 19th album. And I haven't put the year it come out, as usual. So the album, I'll put it in there. There he is. This is called The Vision, the Sword and the Pyre Part 2. Now this is the second part of a rock opera about the life of Joan of Arc, and the realisation, which had been a wish of the front man's Frank Borman to do this since the 1990s. So on here we've got Frank Borman, Hans Thorbeth, Michael Gerlach, Klaus-Peter Mansoy, Stephen Emmings on the drums, with Arthur Kufus on guitar, keyboard, and Leia Neuston doing vocals, and the youth choir of Hanover. First track is called An Instant of Relief. Still the war rages on. This is quite good. Love the choir, the vocal, pretty good. Between Hope, Doubts, Fears and Uncertainty. Good track, sounds like classic Eloy. Really like that one. Pate, pleasant enough melody, and Frank can still sing. Joy, another really good lot. I love the work, the guitar work on this. Then we've got Rheims, the coronation of Charles VII. Very medieval sort of music. Really good. I can't see anything this being done at King Charles III's coronation, but it's good. It's got the youth choir again singing. It's really good. I don't mind that. Then we got Resume. It's okay. Then we got Armistice or War. Rocky sound here of a mature progressive rock band. Really good. Then we got my favourite track on here, Paris. Love the guitars. Great bass line to this. Real good little rocker. Abandon. Really good vocal from Frank on this one. Good keyboards and piano as well. Compagnie. It's alright. Still very 80s though. Tormenting Imprisonment. Some nice strings on here. A really nice vocal from Frank. Rouen. It's alright. Eternity. It's got a bit of little spoken on it. This is the second of these Vision of the Sword albums. It's one of them you can't sit down and put it on in the background. You've got to listen to it properly. There's some really good stuff on this. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 11 is the 18th album, released in 2017, and it's The Vision, the Sword and the Pyre Part 1. It's the same people, but there's the drummers drift. Yes, everywhere. There's Christoph Heinz on the drums, but it's Frank Borman, Klaus-Peter Matzoy, Michael Gerlach and Hans Fulbeth. First track on this one is called The Age of the 100 Years' War. Lengthy introduction on this, but I enjoy it. Atmospheric, the bell at the end, really atmospheric track. Then we get this short piece called Drommery of the 6th of January 1412. Atmospheric piece, very short but very good. Early Signs from Longed for Miracle. Nothing. It's really cold and folky. Excellent track. Autumn 1428 at Home. This is 55 seconds of piano and Frank. Really good. Then we get The Call. Interesting track here. Got some lovely keyboard runs on this. Terrific stuff. Then we got Vacules. Very good track. Very consistent on this album. That medieval sound, but in a modern way. Ride the Night Towards the President Fate. This is an instrumental. Short, great guitar work here. Brilliant stuff from Frank. Chinon. You have to really concentrate on this track, but it's really good. You just can't put this one on in the background. Then we get The Prophecy. Classic sort of proggy rock, Rick Wakeman style. Lots of swirly keyboards. Then The Sword. Not a particular favourite of mine. Then we got Orleans, very heavy sort of, not in music, very heavy in content, but it's good. Le Tourelle, my favourite track. The choir, there's a choir on this proper modern day prog, excellent track. Why, a very melodic track with a great vocal from Frank. Okay, out of both parts, these part 1 and part 2 of this is the better part, but it's, again, you have to sit down and listen to it, not background, but to listen to it together, it's really good. I think it's because it's a little bit heavy going, it's a bit lower, but musically it sounds brilliant. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.3. Top 10 now, getting into the good stuff. So coming in at number 10, we have the 8th album released in 1980 called Colours. Frank Borman, Hans Ancora, Hans Fulbeth, Klaus-Peter Matzoy, Jim McGillivray and Edna and Sabine on lead vocals on track 1. So track 1 is Horizons. I love these two, Edna and Sabine, angelic voices. Really, really good. The drum's pretty good. Illuminations, love this. The bass line from Klaus Peter Mansoy drives the song along. Got some great guitar from Frank on this one, really good track. Then we got Giant, classic Eloy, with a little bit of 80s touch, not too much, but it's a good track. Impressions, I love the keyboards on this one. Very early 80s prog track, pretty cool. Child Migration, my favourite track on this album. Lovely keyboard start, very rich. The guitar work from Frank, spot on. Gallery, it's okay. It's not the best track on the album. Silhouette, what an interesting arrangement this is. I love the guitar and piano working on this, and Frank sort of vocally thing is pretty good on that. Sunset, lovely track, very ambient. The keyboard and guitar are great on this. Great way to end the album. Really like this album. It's probably the last of the albums before they went very electronic. I love this album. Play this quite a lot, so I'll give this one an RTO ranking of 8.5. Okay then, coming in at number 9, we have the 15th album released in 1994, The Tides Return Forever. And this was the first album Klaus Peter Mansoy returned as a full member of the band. So we got Frank Borman, Michael Gerlach, Klaus Peter Mansoy, with guest musicians Nico Beretta on drums and Jocelyn B. Smith, who did vocals on track 5, and Miriam Stockley, lead vocals on track 7. Other people, there's lots of other people on here as well playing guitar. First track on here is called The Day of the Crimson Skies. Love this track. Really sort of rush sounding keyboards of the time. Great little track. Fatal Illusions, it's not too bad. It's more synth based, but it's really good synth. I really like that track. Childhood Memories, lots of good vocal in this and some nice keyboard runs as well. Let me get my favourite track on here, Generation of Innocence. Again, the keyboards sound good, but it's got an absolute brilliant guitar solo on this. Absolutely stunning. The Tides Return Forever. It's okay. It's got some screaming in it, which really is off-putting. The Last in Line, worst track on the album. Sounds awful. It's too synthy. And then we have the last track, Company of Angels. Love the swirling keyboards on this. Really good stuff. It's got another great guitar solo on it as well. Really good track. One of the Eloy epics. And this isn't a bad album, you know, considering when it, 90s. There's quite a few good tracks on here. There are a couple that I'm not keen on, but on the whole, it's a really good listen. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 8.6. Coming in at number 8, we've got the 16th album released in 1998 called Ocean 2. It was a conceptual, and the same would say it's a follow-up to the band's 1977 album Open. This is where Bobo Shitoff came in. And there's the keyboard outro on Reflections from the Spheres of Beyond. It's very reminiscent of an American sci-fi series called Battlestar Galactica, for those of you who remember. So on here we've got Frank Borman, Michael Gerlach, Klaus Peter Mansoy, Bodo Shitoff, First track, Between Future and Past. A typical intro from Eloy. Lovely sort of voice noises, keyboard eeriness. Like this, it's a great track. Then we got Rose Tattoo. The start is good. That chunky guitar sound, absolutely amazing. Lots of harmonising on this, of the void vocals. Really like that track. Paralysed Civilization, another great track. The guitar work, superb. Then we got Serenity. One track in here I'm not keen on. It doesn't do anything for me except the guitar work. It's quite eerie. Awakening of Consciousness. This is good old-fashioned Eloy here with a modern twist. Love the keyboards in this. Absolutely amazing. Now the Reflections from the Spheres Beyond. Yes, it's the one with the Battlestar Galactica in it, and it works. This is my favourite track of the newer stuff by Eloy. After that 80s debacle sound. Really good. This is absolutely brilliant. It's one of my favourite tracks by this band. Absolutely fantastic. Waves of Intuition, solid track, some nice harmonies on this one. I love the keyboards and drums on here. They really work well together. The Ansman, another epic from Eloy. Goes back to the proper days of prog. Love this. To me, this is probably one of the best albums of the later years, and it's Eloy back on form. I think this is the best album of the later years as well. Terrific album. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 8.8. Now we're going into the real classic. This is what I call classic Eloy. Very hard to get this to the 7 because they're all good in their own way. So coming in at number 7, we go to the debut album from 1971. It was called Eloy. So on here we've got Eric Shrivner on lead vocals and keyboards, Frank Borman on guitar, harmonica and percussion, Manfred Wyskorski or something, guitar, Wolfgang Stocker on bass, Helmuth Draht on drums. First track on here today. Classic, great riffs. The guitar work between Frank and Manfred is brilliant. Great vocal from Shariva. Great track, love that track. Something Yellow, another great track. The drumming on here from Helmuth is brilliant. I love how it fades out and then the guitars come in with Frank and Manfred. Absolutely brilliant. My favourite track is the track just called Eloy. The double guitar at the start of this is fantastic. Love Wolfgang's bass line. True little rock track that is. Then we have Song of a Paranoid Soldier. Great track. The vocal on this is superb. Love this track. Voice of the Revolution, another quality track. Drumming's really good. Some really good keyboard swirls on this. Isle of Sun. It's them keyboards, it's just amazing sound. This is the first track I think that defines the Eloy sound. Then we get Delius Rhodi, last track on the album. Some great guitar playing here from Frank, and the keyboard is brilliant. It's very Uriah Heep. There's nothing wrong with that. This was a great debut album. And it's one that people forget about. It's a mixture of prog and heavy rock. It's just a great album. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. Well, now it gets even harder. Coming in at number 6, we've got the 5th album from 1976, Dawn. Another great album. Frank Borman, Klaus-Peter Manzoy, Detev Shumetschutten plays mellotron and keyboards. Jürgen Rosenthal on the drums. First track is Awakening. It may be short, but I love the strings. I love the thunder and rain. Gives it so much atmosphere. And I love the violin. Really lingers. Great track. Between the Times, a classic Eloy song. I love the riffs in this. The drumming from Jürgen is amazing on this. One of my favourite songs by Eloy. The Sun Song, an atmospheric track. Love the guitar and the gentleness of it. And the keyboard sort of gives it a little bit of ambience. Great track. The dance in the doubt and fear. The start of this is just amazing. That strong bass line from Klaus. Swirling keyboards. Some great guitar work again. Lost, introduction, in brackets. More amazing keyboards on this track. Great drumming from Jürgen. Then we get Lost, the decision. Keyboard is absolutely brilliant on this. Absolute belter of a track. Then we get Midnight Flight, the victory of mental force. My favourite track on here. The keyboard work is amazing. The guitar work, it's just proper prog track. Excellent stuff. Gliding into light and knowledge. Good track, very gentle. Like that a lot. Then we get the Le Reveil de Sol, the dawn. Very different keyboard textures on this. The drumming from Jürgen is pretty good. Great track to end the album. Fantastic album from top to bottom. Not a bad track on this. Again, an album that gets constantly played in the flat. An amazing album. RTO ranking 9.1. It's that good. Okay, coming in at number 5. Coming in at number 5, we've got the third album released in 1974, Floating. On here we've got Frank Borman, of course, Manfred Weiskorti or something, Lucien Jensen on drums, and Fritz Randau on, Lucien Jansen on bass and Fritz Randau on the drums. First track, Floating. Don't you just love tracks that start off with that throb of the Hammond organ? Oh, it's great. Love this track. Love the bass line on it as well from this Lucien. Brilliant stuff. The Light from the Darkness. My favourite track on here. And it's just down to that great Hammond organ from Manfred. The fantastic guitar for Frank is just an amazing piece of music. Then we get Castle in the Air. Great bass line from Lucien. Drives along. Great strike. Plastic Girl. Love the interplay here. The guitars and the keyboard. Really good stuff. Madhouse. It's the only track, obviously, it's got a few vocals on it. I think it's the weakest track on the album. I think it should have just been an instrumental. What a great album for great instrumental progressive music. Oh, okay. Madhouse has got a vocal on it. I don't think they should have put the vocals on it, but the album is just an amazing album. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.2. Coming in at number 4 then. Go to 1979 now. And this is Silent Cries and Mighty Echoes, 7th album. And it was the third and last studio album with the lineup of Frank Delatev, Klaus and Jürgen. First track, Astral Entrance. Oh, love the start of this. It's very crazy on Shine On You Crazy Diamond, but who cares? The textured guitar from Frank is brilliant. And then we get the second part of this, Astral Entrance, the Master of Sensation. Good track. Very Pink Floyd in places again, but oh, it's great. This is more from the Animals album, but I love it. Then we get my favourite track, and it's the epic that is the Apocalypse. What can you say about this? Frank's vocal is superb on this. I think this is like Eloy's own version of Shine On You Crazy Diamond. It just got them keyboards and them gentle guitars. Same, the keyboards are very similar to the Richard Wright playing on that track. I just love that. Brilliant track. Then we get Pilot to Paradise. Great bass line on this. Another amazing piece of music. Frank's guitar playing on this is just unbelievable. De lo Labro Solis. Good track again. This is the keyboards are absolutely fantastic on this. Mighty Echoes. Oh, this is so much, again, very Pink Floydy. Like the Dogs, but it's really good way to end the album. Again, another album of top quality music, top to bottom. These 7 albums are just awesome. And I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 9.3. See, it gets even harder now. Coming in at number 3, we've got the 4th album from 1975, Power and the Passion. Frank Borman, Manfred Weikorki, Lucien Janssen, Deltef Schwa, and Fritz Randall. So the first track is called The Introduction. Very short church and organ, amazing bass line, just what you need. Then we get Journey into 1358. I love how this starts gentle, and halfway through the Hammond organ just hits you like a thunderbolt. The drums start and it starts gathering speed. Solid track. My favourite track comes next, Love Over 6 Centuries. One of my favourite tracks by the band. It's got a great bass line. It drives the song along. Then I like how it slows down and then you get the spoken word, and then it just builds up again and then just fades away. Classic sounding prog track. Wonderful. Mutiny, another bit of an epic. Like the gentle start, and then it goes into some good rock music. The drums are really good. It's got that sort of In the Cage from Genesis, that middle piece of that track. It's just fantastic. Then we get Imprisonment, one of the little weird tracks. Love the mellotron on this. It's crisp, and the guitars and the echo evolves. Wonderful. Daylight, another short track here. It's very jazzy sort of rock. This is like this. Then we get Thoughts of Home. It's another very short piece. The keyboards and that harpsichord sound is brilliant. Then we get the Zany Magician, real heavy riff to the start of this on this heavy track. One of the heaviest tracks since the debut album. Some great guitar riffs. Back into the Presence. It's got a bit of a Uriah Heep's Easy Living feeling to it. Love the guitar solo on this. The Bells of Notre Dame. The beginning, this is brilliant. Then Bells. Absolutely wonderful. Then the mellotron comes in. The very gentle guitar work from Frank. It's just brilliant. As with most prog tracks, it just builds up. But it's that mellotron halfway through. And the guitar solo is really strong at the end. Another absolute brilliant album. Not a bad track on this one. It's so difficult to write these epics. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 9.4. Oh, this was tough. The top 2. It was to-ing and fro-ing up until about a week ago, and then I stopped because I didn't want to change it anymore, because I've changed it about 6 times. So this is the way I went in the end. So coming in at number 2, we got the second album released in 1973, and it's Inside. Frank Borman, Manfred Weichert, Wolfgang Stocker and Fritz Randall. Opens up, well, my favourite track by Eloy. It's the epic Land of Nobody. You start off with the eerie guitar. The vocal is very psychedelic. The big riffs come in. The Hammond organ just oozes greatness. Some great drumming here as well. It's just an amazing piece of music and takes up the whole of side one. Side two starts off with Inside. Love the drumming from Fritz, especially crisp cymbals on that hi-hat. Absolutely brilliant. The keyboard, the organ from Manfred, brilliant. Future City. Now this is a very unusual track. I love the sound effects on this, the percussion. It's a little bit different. And Frank sounds a bit like Ian Anderson singing, which is pretty cool. Up and Down, the last track, very gentle, great bass line in this that dominates it. Brilliant album, contains my favourite track by Eli. It's just fabulous. And I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 9.5. So my number one. This is just an amazing piece of music. Sixth album from 1977, and it's the brilliant Ocean, and it's considered their finest album and a classic for the genre in Germany. Frank Bormann, Klaus-Peter Mansoy, Detef Schmitzen and Jürgen Rosenthal. Side 1, Poseidon's Creation. Absolutely a powerhouse track. That bass line, the swirly Hammond organ that builds up, some great riffing. The keyboard swells really give you that feel of the sea. Fantastic track. Then we get the incarnation of Lagos. The eerie start. Frank's vocal delivery is really brilliant. The swirling keyboards, absolutely brilliant. And that's side 1 done with. Side 2 starts off with the decay of Logos. I love this track, the rolling drums and that eerie hook, brilliant. And we get another epic and a favourite of mine, Atlantis, Agony of 5th of June 8498. 13 PM Gregorian Earth time. Absolute brilliant. My favourite track on here. I love the speech at the beginning telling the story of Atlantis. Goes off into this wonderful piece of music, and I love how it builds up and the drums get faster and faster. It's just terrific. It's epic. The whole album is an epic. You can't put it on. You've got to put the whole thing on. It's brilliant to listen to under the headphones. Always loved this. I just get, when I put this on the headphones, I just get lost in the whole concept of Atlantis. I've listened to this on a beach. It's just a brilliant album. No distractions. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.6. So there we go. A great band. Very underrated band as well. Should have done bigger, especially in America. I don't know why they didn't catch on to this. But a great band. Okay, that's all for today. As it's a marathon day, we only do the one show on a Wednesday. But I'll be back tomorrow. Not being just it's live stream day, 8 PM tomorrow night. We've also got Battle of the Debuts, and we're going to do a bit of new wave tomorrow. And from the 80s, 2 bands that are still going today, but this is how they started, and it's Depeche Mode and Tears for Fears. And also tomorrow we're going to take a wander down the sidewalk in Picks and Mix, which means that we're going to look at the top 10 singles for the 9th of February 1972 in the good US of A. So all that you need to do is say thank you for watching, and if you're into your prog and your first time you watch, why don't you subscribe and hit that bell, and you won't miss out on anything I put out. There's lots of prog on here, I'm sure you'll find it. And thank you very much, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye for now.